Mr. Thornhill, we are continuing part two of the Barbados Cadet Corps and high school in Barbados. And you're saying something about Errol Barrow and his time in London with some West Indian radicals or nationalists. Give me some names.
I would Forbes, Samson Burnham, Eric Williams, Prime Minister of Trinidad, and Manley, Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Do you know that I discovered in 2008, 2009 from one Dudley Thompson, who was a flight lieutenant in Bomber Command. He later became Minister of Foreign Affairs and Defense under Michael Manley. That in 1945, London, there was a West Indian Student Union. Who were the members of the West Indian Student Union? Dudley Thompson, Michael Manley, Forbes Burnham, Eugenia Charles, Tom Adams passed through, Squadron Leader Ulrich Cross from Trinidad, PLU, Philip Louis Ulrich Cross, 139 Jamaica Squadron Bomber Command, he was there too. Edward Scobie of Dominica, who was a flight lieutenant in the Air Force, and another one who was Elsa Gouveia. She became the first West Indian woman to get a PhD. So the West Indian Student Union had been influenced by Dr. Eric Williams and some of the other West Indian radical intellectuals. And of that group, maybe 3 or 4 of them became prime ministers.
That's correct.
You know, and so that was a very interesting time. So you're saying that Grantley came from another era.
Yes.
Tell me, what do you remember of Sir Grantley Adams?
He was the first Prime Minister of the West Indian Federation.
Yes.
And in fact, my cousin is, in fact, now deceased, was married to his sister's son. So on one side of my family, there's the Adams family. So I know enough about them to be dangerous.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say anything.
How did people? He went to school in England before the war, I believe. And did he marry an English woman?
I think so.
Yes.
I think his wife was European.
Did you ever know her? Did you know her?
No, I never met Mrs. Adams.
So by the time he was prime minister, was he still married or?
I don't recall. I know historically that his wife was European.
That would have been Tom Adams' mother.
Tom's mom, yes.
Yeah. Did he have only one child?
To my knowledge, yes.
That was Tom Adams.
Yes.
Who himself died in office.
Exactly.
Yes. When did Grantley Adams pass away? Did he pass? He did not die in office, I don't think.
No, he was not. He was not in office when he died. I think Sir Grantley died in probably the late 60s.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the early 60s, in 1961, that's when the father of the nation, Errol Barrow, won the first election with a sweep.
Yes.
Of the Barbados Labour Party. They got very few candidates.
I see.
From then on, he worked to become the father because he was the one under who we gained independence in 1966.
That's correct. Britain. Yes, indeed. The Federation lasted from 57 to 62. What are your memories of the Federation, and do you think it was a missed opportunity?
I think politically there were some turbulent times during the Federation. I can remember as a youngster my parents talking about it. The dissension between the larger territories like Trinidad and Jamaica, the fact that the first prime minister was a Barbadian coming from a rather small island versus the size and the populations of Trinidad and Guyana and Jamaica. Barbados at that time only had approximately 235,000 people versus Trinidad and Jamaica, which had over 1 million at that time.
Yes.
So for Barbadians felt as though they were cheated because most of the ideas that were to bring from the federation about the economy and trade and business went out the door, went out the window, and Barbados had to was struggling on its own
Yes.
at the time. So with the sugar industry, so it would have been better if we had a federation at that time. That's my thoughts as a youngster.
Yeah.
Because as young guys, we discussed it, and it would have been better for us to have a federation because of the variety of industries which the federation brought
Yes,
to the market.
you had bauxite, you had
Yes.
oil, you had agriculture. I was a much younger person. I was born in '61. I take the view that the federation would have been much better for us as a
Yes.
people,
Yes.
much better for
The
us.
one thing I can remember was there were two boats, the Federal Maple and the Federal
Yes.
Federal Palm, which used to ply between the islands, whether it was St. Lucia to bring in plantains and bananas, or Guyana to bring in provisions. Or,
Those were two boats gifted us by the Canadian government,
okay.
and I know that I remember them well. They would come every week,
Yes.
one going north, one going south.
Yes.
And it was the main means of transportation because in those days air traffic was more luxurious, more of a luxury, couldn't be afforded by the ordinary people. So you went on a boat,
Yes, that's correct.
and so on. And what was I was made to understand that Errol Barrow was a social transformation agent, that he brought black people to power in Barbados. Is that true?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
It started with the local. He started with the buy local. That was one of the things. Buying local meant involving the people who provided the goods and services to the population, not who stockpiled it to sell it. It started with the retailers and not the wholesalers. It started with the farmers and the agriculturalists. He united those people around the party. The party started from scratch, but the building of the party was all his idea, and people left the other party, which was the Barbados Labour Party, to join him because I recall in 1961 when he won the elections, the first thing he did was he reduced the unemployment level by at least 10-12%. He says every person has to go to work, and everyone was asking what jobs we're going to have. The roads got improved, even the gullies were improved. There were lots of industrious initiatives being done, being promoted by the then government.
You remember the mini moke?
Yes,
That was a car assembly plant in Barbados.
it was assembly in Barbados. That's correct.
Because I remember they had those in Dominica. They were exported to the other islands like Dominica. It was like a little Jeep.
Yep. One of the industries that Barbados brought, that it was brought to Barbados from Canada, was the putting together of hockey gear.
Yes, yes.
We had a hockey gear company in Barbados that made hockey gear.
As a matter of fact, it's funny. The first time I held a hockey stick was when Commonwealth cadets came to Dominica in '74, because we didn't have hockey in Dominica. But it seems to me that Commonwealth had a hockey team.
Yes, they did. We had a hockey team.
Yes.
We had a swimming team. We participated in every sport. Soccer, which is football. Obviously cricket, because we had some of the greats that came out of Commonwealth, like Sir Wesley Hall, and a number of other cricketers who did very well. We had some good athletes. One of the athletes out of Commonwealth was a guy by the name of Jim Wedderburn. He was an 800 specialist, and he was the first Barbadian to go to a Commonwealth game. I think he went to Australia, to the Commonwealth Games in Australia, and he did very well.
Indeed.
So the school was a beacon for not only academics, but also for athletics.
And I know that you came here to do some business. I just caught you on the fly to get a quick interview because I always like to capture West Indians with your generation so that the younger ones coming up in the Caribbean can be seized of that time by way of the reportage you give. Tell me about your time in the Cadet Corps at Comomere and who was the commandant?
The commandant was none other than Dighton Maynard. I only spent 2 years in the cadet because I went to Comomere to do my A levels.
I see.
In the sixth
So where had you gone before then?
I was at the Modern High School.
I see.
It's a private high school.
I see.
And I had a scholarship to the Modern High School. I could have gone to Comomere, but I was given a scholarship by the then Louis Albert Lynch, who was the headmaster of Comomere, who did great for Barbados. He was the one who opened the door for the whole Caribbean to have nursing students go to England.
I see.
And also come to the United States. And in fact, at one time, between 80 and 90% of the nurse students from Barbados were graduates of the Modern High School.
Amazing.
That's how fantastic it was. So, yes, in growing up at the Modern, there were a lot. I still have friends that we talk every day. We talk every week. We talk about those times. We talk about how we used to go to the library on Saturday, 3-4 of us, and just be in the reference the part of the library that just had the reference books. You couldn't take them out.
That's right.
And we would talk about stuff and
you'd stay there until closing.
Stayed until closing.
And did that help your studies in later life?
It more than opened up because we always challenged the teachers. We were a group of guys who challenged the teachers. In fact, there was one guy who was from Harrison College. His name was Paul Steinbach. Paul is a brain surgeon. I think I last heard of him. He was at McGill's in Toronto, in Canada. Now we used to
spell Steinbach.
Steinbok. Steinbach.
Steinbok.
Steinbok.
Bok.
Steinbach.
Was he a black West Indian or white West Indian?
He was a white West Indian. He was white Bajan. His father owned a shirt factory in Bridgetown.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, we have some great scholars from that time. I am proud of my West Indian heritage because I remember when I was at college here in the 1980s, when the grades or the dean's list would be called out, West Indians would be at the top. Folks from Jamaica, Trinidad, of course, Dominica, of course, we're all there in there. As president of the Caribbean Students Association at the University of DC and at Georgetown as well. So that was a good time. So were you a cadet corporal or sergeant?
No, I never made it to be right.
But you remember the old Leo? You remember the old 303?
I remember the drills.
Yes.
I remember the Saturdays we had to show up for different exercises and those type of things.
And you drilled with the old Lee Enfield 303.
That's correct.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
Right.
Yes, indeed. And you're at Queen's Birthday Parade and
right.
Remembrance Day Parade. And
yes.
Of course, that was before independence.
That was before independence. That's
yes,
correct.
Indeed. Yes,
before
indeed.
independence.
In those days, you didn't have a defense force, but you had a regiment.
Yeah, we did have the Barbados Regiment.
Yes,
we didn't
indeed.
have a BDF at the time.
Yeah. I know it's getting late, and I know we have to continue, but I want you to give me a few nuggets about where you went to school in England.
Yes, I went to England, and I went to school. My first school was at Kent and Canterbury University. I left Kent and Canterbury University in Kent, and I went to London University, St. Mary's, Queen Mary's University in Mile End, London, and there I did operations research with a minor in data processing.
That's a Bachelor's of Science.
That's correct. Was recruited by IBM World Trade at the time, not IBM US, and became a systems engineer for IBM and did systems engineering work. And the highlight of my career was working for a company called Mullard Electronics, which was a subsidiary of Phillips Oil Company, and I got not I got recruited to go to Holland to work in Eindhoven for 6 months to help them build the Philips. At that time, Philips was building their own computer, so I became part of that team, and the rest is history.
Outstanding. And later on, you got your master's degree as well.
That's right. Got my master's degree after. In fact, master's degree was paid for by IBM.
Outstanding. Was that at London University as well?
That was at London University. Correct.
Indeed, indeed. As you look back on your life in the Caribbean and here in the United States and before that England, and you did a stint in Guyana for the Aluminum Company of Canada.
Yes, the Guyana Bauxite Company, which was nationalized. The Alcan, which was the aluminum company of Canada, had a bauxite company in Guyana, Mackenzie, Guyana. And the company was nationalized by the Guyana government, and it became Guyana Bauxite Company. In 1971, I was recruited by the then bauxite company to work in the data processing area of the bauxite company. I spent 6 years there, starting in 71 to 76. In 2 years there, I became the superintendent of data processing, which was the level below divisional superintendent and below the CEO. So it was 3 moved from the position that was the highest position in the company.
Outstanding.
So I enjoyed Guyana very much, and in fact, if I had to choose 2 places to live that I've lived before, it would be Barbados and Guyana.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Very nice.
I spent a while there, six years, and then I migrated to the United States.
Indeed.
And needless to say, I had to start all over again, because when I came to the United States, I got back into writing software, writing assembly language, COBOL, PL1, and also Fortran. I worked for a company called, the first company I worked for here was Dyne Electron Corporation, DynCorp, and the rest is history.
Well, listen, you've been an outstanding private sector worker, an outstanding data analyst, and we're proud of you. And you're also an outstanding community leader. You're a member of the Midtown Lions Club. Tell us about that.
Yes, in 1980, a number of us got together and decided we want to do something that was not only socially, but provide service to those people who were less fortunate than ourselves. So we got together and we commissioned, the club was commissioned by the district, Lions District, District 22C. We became a club in 1980, June of 1980. I am one of the founding members of the club.
Give us some names of some of the founding members.
The founding president of the clubs was Mr. Colin King, Lion Colin King
of Guyana.
Of Guyana.
Yes, a great West Indian, a great Guyanese.
The sponsoring founder of the club was also Guyanese. His name, he was from New York. He was in a club in New York. He sponsored our club here. His name was Lion Cubert Crawford.
Cubert Crawford.
We've had many great guys, great lions, and we're still doing well.
Was there Royston de Souza?
Royston de Souza is one of our past presidents.
Yes.
To name a few, we've also had Dr. He taught at Howard University.
Was it Doc Godet?
Godet was not one of our members. I'll give you his name in a minute. But yes, so we had.
Was it BJ Lockhart?
BJ was always a supporter. BJ was not a Lion, but BJ is a very close friend of the Lions. He is now retired, and I think he is doing very well.
Yeah, BJ Lockhart is from Dominica, so
BJ's Dominican. Yeah. Yeah, but the group here consisted of folks from the West Indian diaspora, We had Jamaicans, we had Bajans, we have Guyanese. It's a strong Guyanese contingent, and both men and women. And the club is going strong. We have over 50 members still. And this year we are going to be celebrating our 45th anniversary and charter, which is going to be in May of this year. And we're preparing for that very big day for us.
And I just want to say I had the high honor and privilege of being invited to speak years ago, maybe about 20 years ago. I remember Colin King being there and yourself and all, and it was a high honor. I spoke about Helen Keller and her role in being one of the persons who sort of, because I didn't know the Lions Club had a link to the blind and servicing the needs of the blind.
That's correct.
You know, and I know my mother worked as the director of the Blind School in Normanica, and she had the support of the local Lions Club.
Yes.
And it was only after you all invited me to speak, and I was doing some research for my speech, I discovered the linkage between the Lions Club and
blindness.
And blindness.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And we play a big role in the diabetic area as well. Diabetes. We have we are organized to support folks with diabetes. We've even started what we're calling a pre-diabetes program with schools, where we are providing school children with kits, so that they can test themselves, and as well as give themselves the necessary medication to help them with their health.
Outstanding.
So that's one of the things we're doing with the youth, as well as working with adults in the diabetic arena.
Well, I just want to say that not only are you an intellectual giant, a professional par excellence, but also a community leader and a philanthropist, because we do have an issue with diabetes, even more so than blindness. I just want to thank you for your service to community, and you've done much to uphold the high standards of the West Indian community here in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. Any closing words for the young West Indians in the West Indies and here in the diaspora? Any words of advice in way of leadership and how to comport themselves?
Yes, as a father and a grandfather of children and grandchildren here in the Washington metropolitan area, I encourage young people to listen carefully to the experience that is provided to them by those who have been through the changes in the economy, the changes in society, the changes politically in the United States of America. Most of us who came here were probably already educated to a level where we could join the professional groups here, and we learned a lot from being here. And I think we have taught our kids, do not go away from the traditional values that you've been taught by your parents and your grandparents. I know today's society is very high tech, and it's important that you don't lose the connection with your roots. It's very important, whether it's politically, you don't want to lose that, and always strive to be the best you can be. If you could network with someone else whose parents or grandparents came from the Caribbean, it would be a great thing to do.
Indeed.
Because if you network, you become a force, you become a power. You can continue to support your culture and spread this beautiful culture that we have as people from the Caribbean.
You know, I'm listening to you, and I'm just so thankful for the education we had. We had a very strong education, a very strong value system. So at our father's funeral, I was on the lectern doing the eulogy, and I used some terms. I called out some terms. It was mostly West Indian audience from different islands, but they all were able to answer. I'm going to see if I can run that exercise on you right now. Waste not.
Want not.
Make hay.
While the sun shines.
Birds of a feather.
Flock together.
Honesty.
It's best policy.
Oh my goodness. Thornhill, you've gotten an A+. An A+. And you know, it's so interesting. I didn't prepare for this exam that you just aced, right? It meant that we read out and we were value engineered out of the same basic system. And it has stood the test of time.
Yes.
And it has shaped our lives. Everyone in that church that day, just like you, from Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, they all had the same answer. We were poured out of the same mold. And I will tell you, I got a job in 1987. The first time I touched 20,000. Before that, I was making 15,000, 16,000. And after 1.5 years, it was the end of the contract. It was a term limited contract with the Housing and Urban Development Division of the U.S. government, and I was on my way to law school. I got my admission to Georgetown Law while I was there. I asked the gentleman, why did you hire me? You know what he said to me? I'll never forget his words until the day I die. He was an African-American banker. He said, Christian, I hired a West Indian from Grenada in 1966. His name was Albert Braveboy. And you know, I knew the guy. He says West Indians are honest and hardworking people. And that's why I hired you. So when I was in Dominica as a child in elementary school, there already was in Washington a West Indian who, unbeknownst to me, had already established a foundation in reputation for me that I benefited from. He said, Christian, West Indians are honest and hardworking. And you too, sir, exemplify that tradition. So having said that, what are the 2 or 3 things of our character as West Indians of our generation that you'd like to see the young West Indians continue, both in the diaspora and at home?
I'd like to see them, in terms of their progress, continue to exemplify the values that makes West Indians stand out from others. Values like not only being educated, but sharing those educational values with others. I have to touch on those people who are religious. Having a good foundation, whether you are a Muslim or a Christian or any other religion, is essential for good character. And third, but the third one I have is dealing with your finances. One of the things you should always do is think that you can achieve more financially than you have in the past. Always strive to work towards being not only comfortable with yourself, but also comfortable with your employer if you have an employer, or comfortable with your company if you have a company, because the level of comfort that you can provide to yourself, you will also provide to your employees and to your fellow workers, because comfort and happiness and success will help you to accomplish those values that are very important for life.
So you're saying basically keep strong to our value system, also have a degree of financial literacy.
Correct.
And don't be, too quick to spend all your money. Always have savings,
Yes.
have things like an insurance policy. Event you pass away, as we all have, that's rendezvous with that, with fate. There's money left behind for your family, so they
Correct.
can have a little more than you had, those things. Well said, Mr. Thornhill. I want to say how much I appreciate this little interview here with you, because it's so important to leave a legacy for the communities that we're part of. And I thank you again for your service to our community as a dynamic West Indian professional, your community service with the Lions Club, and as an old cadet, I say to you, carry on smartly.
Thank you, Esquire.
Indeed, and send a little message to Colonel Dayton Maynard, if you don't mind.
Brother Maynard, may God continue to bless you in what you have done and bless you for what you're still doing. From one brother to another, keep up the great work. And we admired you then, and we will continue to admire you now.
He said to me that his cadet uniform, there were no creases,
No, sharp,
always sharp.
sharp as a tack.
Sharp as a tack. And we do this little little interview in memory of Major Patrick Skeet, who you may not have known, but was also a proud Commonwealth cadet who I had the honor of knowing and who passed away not long ago. In fact, I'm working on a little essay in tribute to him. So God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, and may God bless you too.
Thank you.